Well, Joe, it is a pleasure to have you on the show today. Longtime fan of yours and even bigger fan of the foundation you and Jen have built. So, welcome. I do want to start before we get into the work that you've done in building the Joe Andruzzi Foundation. You were an NFL player for several years and actually had a fairly big impact on mine and a lot of other New England fans' lives. Talk a little bit about, getting into the NFL, and when did you know that you were going to be an NFL player?
Uh, not until the day I signed a contract. I went to a very small school in Connecticut called Southern Connecticut State University, and I went for my education. And I studied special education, was going for my degree. And for me, football was an added bonus. And, I played as a freshman, so 4 year starter. By the end of it, I was a 2 year All-American at Division II. And some agent gave me a call and said, I heard you, you know, I heard about you and come down and work you out and see if you got a chance in the NFL. And then that's what kind of spiraled after that. And of course, the year before, as a junior All-American, I pulled my hamstring for the scouts that came in. So I wasn't on anybody's map. And senior year again, then he came in and then he got me some private workouts, and I went from being a nobody to a possible late rounder. And after the draft ended in '97, I was signed by the Green Bay Packers to a contract to come out there and big fat zero bonus.
Sorry
Anyway,
about that.
yeah, hey, it happens, but it's not this day and age. But anyway, but my agent always told me all you need is one shot. Open somebody's eyes, and I did for the Green Bay scout that came out to see me twice, and had a chance and opportunity to open some eyes. I was quoted by Ron Wolf, the Hall of Fame GM, as one of the biggest long shots in the NFL that year, and so played hard, showed up. Playing against guys like Reggie White, Gilbert Brown, Santana Dot. These guys just beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And, here I am trying to make the team. And the only other offensive lineman rookie was a first round pick. So it was me and him. And he was, of course, guaranteed his spot. I wasn't guaranteed anything. So for me, scrounged from the bottom, made the opening day roster, and didn't suit up at all, but we played, practice and went all the way to the Super Bowl that year. Then took a trip to Scotland, played in NFL Europe in 1998, in the spring of '98. So that was different, but went in there as a nobody and came out as one of the top linemen. Stuck around Green Bay for 2 more years, and two great things they did for me was sign me as a rookie free agent and then cut me in 2000. Some guy named Bill Belichick and his guru guy, Scott Pioli,
Hmm.
called my agent and brought me in, worked me out, and signed me to a contract. And that began my 5 year stay here in New England from 2000 to 2004. And had a great 5 years, won 3 Super Bowls as a player. So that's precious moments for me. But, unfortunately, NFL stands for not for long. And, they let me go to free agency after the '04 Super Bowl. And I followed Romeo Crennel to Cleveland. And they gave me a chance opportunity. My, chances only lasted 2 years. Unfortunately, it was cut short. I was diagnosed with cancer in March of '07. But, try not to take anything for granted. It was a great 10 years for somebody who wasn't even supposed to make one day in an NFL uniform. So I scrounged around for 10 years, made it to 4 Super Bowls. And, you know, unfortunately, Green Bay lost to Denver my rookie year. But, came here in New England and had a great 5 years and, loved every minute of it. A lot of great fans and, a lot of great teammates. So I had a great time here and knowing what we accomplished from a bunch of nobodies.
Well, it's an awesome story, and I do. obviously getting diagnosed with cancer is horrible, but I say you sort of turned lemons into lemonade. And I do want to just sort of touch on one more thing with the Patriots. So first of all, everyone makes a big deal about this guy named Tom Brady, who is a number 6 draft pick. You were undrafted, so I think in some ways you have
He's basically a free agent too. I mean,
exactly. You
sixth
you had
round
Brett.
those days.
That's right. It was like, no one made it from the 6th round. So the fact
Yeah,
that Joe Andruzzi was undrafted and made it and played in the NFL Europe was pretty cool. But let's talk a little bit about winning those 3 Super Bowls. And I'd forgotten that you had gone because I remember '96 losing that Super Bowl because Bill Parcells made a couple of dumb moves and I think had one foot out the door already. But everything for a reason. So you
yeah.
mentioned you played in Super Bowls in '01, '03, and '04.
Hmm.
'01, I remember sitting in my living room with my dad watching that game and just having that exercise a lot of demons. But what did being a leader on that team teach you, since you were, among a lot of really good, really hardworking players at the time?
Oh, a lot of great players. I mean, these guys we brought our lunch pails to work, that's what I have to say. And for me, that year was long and grueling, as every year is, but extra long and grueling. If you remember, that was also, 9/11. I
Yep.
have 3 brothers that are New York City firemen. One of my older brothers was in Tower 1, one of the very first responders. Tower 2 got hit second, but then fell first. So when it fell, they felt it in Tower 1, and they were running out of Tower 1 with that cloud of smoke that you see on those videos, and they're in that cloud. They're just running, 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 and when it stopped, they stopped, and what'd they do? They turned around, they went right back into, you know, help any which way they can, and can never fathom what he or any of his colleagues went through, but just being there for him during that time was, tough. But knowing I couldn't even get home that day because they closed the tunnels and bridges. I'm from Staten Island, and they I couldn't get in there, understandably. But I sat around all day and watching, listening, and then the next day came to work, and I don't remember a lot. It was a fog, and I was just going through the motions, and then I guess word got out that my 3 brothers are from New York City firemen, and that's when it really hit me. And then finding out the next day that they canceled that weekend, which you know, God rest his soul, Paul Tagliabue, former
Yeah.
uh,
May he rest in peace, the commissioner. Yep.
commissioner of the NFL. He decided to cancel that weekend, which was a great decision because
Hmm.
the world was turned upside down by a couple of people that decided to take lives into their own hands. Unfortunately, they took a lot of lives, but also others were spared. I can't imagine if those buildings would have toppled over instead of imploded. So
Yep.
it's just crazy to even think about, and to know that my brother made it out, and you know many people made it out. You see those videos. It's Everybody's got a story, but knowing that they canceled that weekend, and then having my brothers there the following game as honorary captains, along with my dad, who's a retired New York City cop, holding their helmet. They were dressed in their uniforms. They weren't from there for me or for the Jets. They were there for themselves and their colleagues, and holding their helmets up high, knowing what they represented that day. It's truly unbelievable. And then turning around and being invited by Commissioner Paul Tagliabue to go to the Super Bowl that year. And it just so happens that the Patriots are going too.
It
We're
was
able to make
a dream journey, right? And
oh
just
yeah,
a
through
few
the
things to
snow, over the hill, and through the woods, and through the snow to Super Bowl we go.
exactly.
But
Well, a few things to unpack on that. So, one, for the younger listeners, they probably don't know or may not remember that there was almost no cell coverage because cell phones were a relatively new thing. And when that happened, not only did it knock down a lot of the towers, but everyone was trying to get in touch with their loved ones. I remember my dad was in New York and literally walking like 50 blocks north to sort of get away from all of it. I think that was a beautiful tribute, to have you and your brothers out on the field. But, I feel like that was the moment that sort of the Patriots became a little bit of America's team that season because of the
Mhm.
fact that, your brothers played such a great role and then yeah, it was like such a fitting touch to have the Patriots win their first Super Bowl in 2001 and so just I want to say like thank you to, your brothers and your family for serving so honorably and I think sometimes we forget just like how dangerous that was. Like you said, the tower fell and they, turned around and went right back in and were saving people. So, um, but that will be a good foreshadowing to what we're going to talk about. And that is that, you mentioned that you had cancer, non-Hodgkin's, Burkitt lymphoma. And so that led to some pretty serious changes in your life. I think you guys had moved and then you moved back to New England so that you could sort of be close to great health care. But one of the things that you and Jen talk about is this idea of financial toxicity of cancer.
Yes.
And that really became part of the impetus, between yourself. I know you also have another story about a younger gentleman that had brain cancer that impacted you in your life. But talk a little bit about how those things sort of turn that light bulb on for you and Jen to say, you know what, we're not going to just fight through this, but we're actually going to do something, and we're gonna build a foundation that's going to help other people not have to suffer through these things.
Well, it's funny how God works in funny ways. And a young boy I met during my playing days, and we stayed in contact. Unfortunately, he passed in December of '02, and we honored him with a fund at Children's, raised a $500,000, and a year after that, we're calling that doctor that we just donated to for my own help. So I was released from the Browns in March or April of '07, and sitting there waiting to take a and working out, possibly going to play for my 11th year somewhere, and just had our fourth kid. So didn't know where we are gonna go. We had bought a house closer to my family in Jersey, and whether we go there or go somewhere else, and I'll go live and they can come visit, vice versa, and then turn around and here we are. The word cancer, and when you get told you have cancer, it just turns your world upside down. I retired overnight, called my agent, cancel everything. I have a battle for my life ahead of me. I was diagnosed with stage 4 Burkitt's lymphoma. It's a rare and aggressive cancer that doubles in size in 24 hours. So action had to be done fast. My wife put me on a plane at 7 a.m. on that was May of '07. So flew out here to New England. We actually sat in Cleveland Clinic and writing pros and cons on a napkin, whether we were going to go to New York or even Texas or Minnesota, which is the best options, where's the best treatment, and finding out that the best is here in New England. And my doctor wrote the protocol for Burkitt's, and being able to come back here, meet with him, and he said, "Well, not taking another test. You're already stage 4 with starting chemo tomorrow morning, 7 a.m." So I spent 50 plus days in the hospital, in and out of the hospital, really, but most of the time it was inpatient, and then sometimes chemo every day, and just had to you know knock it out, I guess, and it knocked me out, and probably don't remember a lot of the summer of '07. Certain little things here or there, but overall, that's probably a good thing, with the chemo brain and stuff like that. And, you don't want to remember a lot of those, bad
No,
times. And no, but, I remember it sucked. It's not fun having cancer because, you got these nurses who are unbelievable people. They come in trying to cheer you up all the time and put a smile on your face, and that's when I truly believed in laughter, smiling, and it's some of the best medicine. At least is those endorphins that helps you heal. But
right?
then, like 5 minutes later, they're coming in fully gowned, and then you know putting poison in your body. So that's when that's when they're great people, and the doctors put you in the right place, the right treatment, My doctor was great. My nurses were awesome. So, I was in a good state of mind and being able to battle from a hospital bed and then going home. So that was August '08. I finished my treatment, went home, and then began the real battle. And nobody talks about it a lot of times. It's chemo affects your whole body, all your organs, every throughout your whole body, your brain. So I had a big battle with anxiety and depression because usually August of every year for the last 10 years, I was in training camp. That was my job. And here I was just, recuperating, sitting at home and not knowing my future at that moment. But, still glad to be alive, but knowing that it's still another battle. But even, one day at a time, I tell patients just little by little. I remember, not wanting to get up off the couch and being able to walk around with my kids. Had four at the time, and walking them to the bus stop, then heading back to the gym, and then you know, one day at a time, just little by little, hitting the weights again. That's when I realized that my bones and muscles was like Rice Krispie treats, snap, crackle, pop. But probably from all the years of football and chemo was like the cherry on top. But overall, it was a good year before I got back on my feet and felt good enough to move forward. And by May 2008, my wife and I decided to start up the Joe Andruzzi Foundation. It was born then, but prior to that, I wanted nothing to do with cancer. Like I said, it messes with your mind and messes with all that, your whole body, and just wanted to put it behind me. And received a phone call from a mom from Maine whose son just got diagnosed with the same exact cancer, and
Hmm.
he's in college. And for me, I turned around and yeah, what's his number? Called him up, and still talk to him to this day. He was a pediatric oncologist, but now a pediatrician up in New Hampshire, and just a great family, great guy. And I looked at my wife and I said, you know what? We can do a lot of good with this. You can take my 3 Super Bowl rings, parlay that with my survivorship ring, which is me being here, and help those in need. And that's when we decided to start it up. And with the financial toxicity in the world, learning that 50% of cancer patients become bankrupt after a cancer battle is heart wrenching. I was fortunate enough to play in the NFL for 10 years, and others live paycheck to paycheck. So my wife and I decided to help with the home end stuff so we don't pay any medical. We help with mortgage, rent, utilities. And now we evolved into helping with food security, putting food on the table for families and rides to doctors. We also have upbeat outings, which is getting patients together. And then the last one is, doing, you know, uh, something that's, is needed for a family that all of a sudden a patient needs a wheelchair and maybe they need a wheelchair ramp at home to get in. So that's where we can step up and help with that kind of stuff. But it's truly rewarding. It's amazing work. My wife and I, and we now have a staff of 15 that, we try and raise those funds every year to pay it forward. We don't like to say no. We help any patient, any age, any cancer, all throughout the 6 states of New England. We pretty much don't like to say no because we know the need. And sometimes that no is usually a doctor's signature or something that's not filed right. So that's we return it back, and then next round they'll file it again. So for us as a foundation, the best things, the most favorite things I like to hear is just those two words, two famous words, is thank you.
Hmm.
And sometimes gives you chills on the stories and the thank you letters and the notes, the emails. I was just speaking at a school recently, and one of the teachers came up to me to thank me for helping his mother-in-law. And, at that time, it was great, he told me, but unfortunately, she's not with us anymore, but just hearing the words that we helped her during that tough time was truly amazing. So knowing that we're there to step in and help those in need is pretty great on what we do.
Well, it's unbelievable, and I just wanna make a side note, which is your wife, Jen, who is your co-founder, who we've emailed a little bit, but I take as an unbelievable woman as well, and so bless you both for,
Yes.
doing this, especially after that difficult journey, because I can only imagine. I've had cancer touch my family's lives. I've never had to deal with it, but I can imagine that you would wanna run the other way, and instead, you ended up embracing it, and you answered one of my questions, which is I love that story about picking up the phone and calling the kid in Maine. I'm from Maine originally, so particularly poignant for me. I do want to talk a little bit about the transportation piece of this because I think people forget it's dumb little things like that that actually play a huge
Yes.
role. So you all created a partnership with Lyft, and I think you do a number of these. Talk a little bit about how that's evolved over the course of since '08 until now, and you know what types of partnerships do you look for beyond something obvious like that?
Well, that kind of came to us. We inherited it from another group that was closing up, and we always wanted to be a part of that because we've heard from social workers and many other patients that it wasn't always easy to get to their appointments, and you don't want to miss treatment. You want to get better for your family and friends. You miss treatment, it might hurt your protocol or do something else to your whatever's going on inside your body. And for us, we inherited that, and the social workers that we work with know the people that are in need and know the people that can't drive or can't make it, and they'll reach out through our site and book a lift through the foundation and get their patients in for treatment or for an appointment. And it's amazing when you talk to some of these people on they what they don't have. Sometimes they don't even have a car, and they're stricken with cancer battle. So that's where we're able to help out. We're trying to get into all 6 states. It's a program that it's pretty tough when you think about. I mean, you're from Maine, so you think about Maine, except for the known city areas. You go up north. I don't think they have a lift program there, not unless it's a
No,
tractor or something,
no, they
right?
don't. Yeah, exactly. It brings
So
new meaning to the "can't get there from here." That
yeah,
literally is true in some places up there.
yeah, it's amazing, and the fact that most of the places, you know, everybody, all doctors talk to each other. I mean, look, we're doing this over a computer, and these streaming these lines and everything. It helps with many doctors, many different diseases. They all talk to each other. So I remember having a patient that was on the Canada borderline, and up in Maine, and he go down to his doctor was in Bangor, and he go home, and there was a local cancer facility there that he got his treatment from. But when once a month he had to travel 3.5 hours south to Bangor. I mean, just think about that. That's going to Bangor just for a checkup, and then unfortunately he did pass. But towards the end, he had to go to Boston for treatment. So you know, unfortunately he did pass. But knowing that story and what they had the ordeal, he was married, he had 3 kids, and you know, I was married, had 4 kids. I now have a fifth, but that's a whole nother story. I don't know if we had enough time.
We do. I actually
I'm
I
kidding.
read a little bit about that, and I do there was some intrigue around that, so actually do share about your 5th child.
Well, first day of chemo, they told me if I wanted to freeze any sperm or anything. I'm like, really? And I didn't know. I was like, why? They were like, well, you're probably going to be sterile after cancer. And we already decided that we were done with the 4 kids. And I was like, no, you just saved me another surgery. I've already had like 10 surgeries on my knees, shoulders. So I'm like, oh,
Who knew
yeah.
that cancer could be helpful, right?
Yeah. It wasn't helpful for me, though. 3 years later, uh, you know, my wife was pregnant, and he he's a blessing in disguise. My youngest boy, he's now 14, but can't deny him. He's tall, big, like myself, and you know, looks a lot like me and my wife combined. But just a great soul, great kid. I would have to say like he's an old soul
Mm.
on compared to having four older siblings. He probably learned a lot from them, language and vocabulary and things like that. But they all love him to death, and he loves them, and still trying, being close knit family. But we were doing it all over again. But I wasn't playing for the NFL anymore, so I spent more time with him, and you know being with him, coaching him, and stuff like that. It's been a blessing in disguise, and my wife and I love it to death.
Clearly, it was meant to be, Joe. I do want to talk a little bit about
Exactly.
this, and that is that you've built this amazing foundation. Where do you see it going over the next 5 years, and what new initiatives do you have on the horizon? Like, I know you just, I think you raised $1 million in food security, but talk about other types of programs. And do you want to get outside of New England, or are you sort of committed to staying within New England for the foreseeable future?
Well, first and foremost, $1 million for food security was raised in 3 years from the start, and that was more of
It
the
was amazing.
donation. We
Yeah,
gave
it's
out a
amazing.
million dollars in 3 years, and then that's since COVID. So just goes to show you how people are struggling since COVID, and now in this time and what's going on, it's getting rougher and rougher.
Yep.
But overall, you know, uh, we love just keep paying it forward to know that you know how the little things always count. It's not always the big things, and to be able to turn around and pay somebody's mortgage or rent, utilities, or food, or people shouldn't have to choose between putting food on the table or buying their medicine. So it's one of those things where you want to step in and they want to get healthy for their family, and then to know that a lot of these patients recover, get better, and then they want to give back. We've had patients come back and have run for our Team JF running program, Boston Marathon or Falmouth Road Race or other road races and marathons, half marathons that are all over New England. But, we still want to be here in 5 years. We love being a part of New England, and we definitely want to spread out more. But to take that on with such a small group, it's hard for the bandwidth of the foundation, because we do help in so many areas, and we don't want to change that. But to know that we don't like to say no, and to know that we pretty much normally give a yes to many patients, and the social workers know the ones that are in need, and they help us out. And you know in 5 years, hopefully we're you know way over millions and millions of dollars. We're close to, with since incentive, we're close to giving out over $50 million, almost 50 million. So it's pretty crazy to think about, but also knowing that how hard we worked and what we do on a daily basis is very rewarding.
Well, first of all, thank you again for all you do. And I do want to give you a chance to point people in a direction or talk about how they can support, because we do have listeners from all over. But it is interesting because I had a guest on, Adrian Grenier, who is the actor from Entourage. And he went from doing sort of these big global initiatives to really, he became a farmer in Texas. And he's got this very hyper local approach. And why I say that is, I think there is something to, the power of not overextending yourself. It's like these restaurants, right? That they have a couple of restaurants that are successful, and then all of a sudden they've got 20, and then 20 of them aren't good and they go out of business. So I love that you and Jen have stayed focused on where you can make the most impact. Obviously, as a former New England Patriot, you're royalty for life. And so, very recognizable in New England. And look, if you have the opportunity to spread, I'm sure you will. I love that fact that you said we can't say no to people. Because one of my questions was like, how do you prioritize which families receive financial support, and you answer, you're like, we prioritize everybody. We don't say no to people. So let's
And it
talk a
doesn't
little bit about.
matter with income or anything. So back in the day when we first started, we did have New York and New Jersey because
Uh-huh.
that's where I'm from, and but knowing that we weren't getting a lot of funding from there, and that's a large area to
Right.
fund. So we had to pull back from those two states, and we kept it just New England for many years now. And even with just New England, there's a lot of people in need. And with the since the last 5 to 10 years, it has been getting worse. Grocery prices are going up.
Healthcare is
Everything,
more expensive. Yeah.
healthcare, yeah, everything's going up. So that's where the foundation is trying to get known and to be out there and know that, every little bit counts to every little dollar and everybody's time, because the matter of fact is the time is the most valuable thing we have on this earth. We don't know when your time's going to be up, so you got to use it wisely.
Well, great advice. And so, to that end, where would you like people to go to find out more about the foundation and to get involved? And I'm assuming it probably starts with your website. Yes.
You got it. Right here, joeandruzzifoundation.org. All the
So, Joe,
information's on there, so
yeah,
you
for
can
those
check us
those
out.
that are listening only, so Joe's got his hat on, and then behind him, by
Oh,
the way,
sorry.
it's also funny. It says "old fart" because Joe just turned 50 this past summer in August,
That's
and
a
so
gift. That's a gift from our employees here. So there you go. We go back
I
and forth. So
well, I love it. You talked about laughter being the best medicine, and so it's made me smile the entire time as I sit here and look at you. I want to do a few lighthearted questions and then we'll wrap up. I
sure.
know you've had a chance to meet some amazing people over the course of your life. We talked about Commissioner Tagliabue as one of them, but who has impressed you the most out of anyone that you've met?
Who's impressed me most? We've going out to the White House. I'd have to say those the many times, and that we had the opportunity to go out there, and knowing that a lot of them, even President Bush, and early on, he knew me and he knew the story of my brothers during 9/11, and it was pretty amazing on knowing that. And he asked me how they were doing and stuff. So it's pretty amazing to see people in that higher stage, and they're just normal people. Everybody, they're just like you and me, and so it doesn't make them any better. Well, of course, the president is much higher than many people, but for him to know a lot of those things, and it was pretty amazing.
Well, I like hearing that, and I think he is someone where he had a little bit of a bad rap during his presidency, at least among some folks, and now we've all come to appreciate him a lot more. And it's interesting
Mm.
because Dick Cheney, who is his vice president, just passed recently, so timely. But I do love hearing stories like that. That people do take the time, especially in your case, where not only did your brothers do that, but like they were on the national platform, and the fact that he took a second to say, Joe, I see you and I
Yeah.
appreciate the fact that what your family's done. So that's very cool. Um, I'm assuming you're probably a music guy, but I'd love to know a band or artist that you would wish you had seen in concert, but probably won't be able to see again because they're either no longer with us or they've broken up.
Uh, Probably would say Beatles. I mean, I grew up listening to them, and it's still some great music. It's well, not the music that I got hyped on before a game, but but other choice of music for game days. But love listening to them, and we won't have a chance to see them together.
Yeah. So no Hey Jude pumping in the locker room while you guys are getting ready for the
Well, maybe
AFC
in the weight
Championship.
room or something, but not before a big game. Before a big game, you listen to a little Metallica, U2, Bon Jovi, all those other pump up bands, and get you hyped.
Yeah, no, those are good choices as well. It is funny because I think this came up as a choice for one of our other guests, and I heard a rumor. I don't know how true it is that there may be a tour coming with Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney, two original members, and then Eric Clapton. So keep an eye out for that because I know it's not the same as the original Beatles, but that would be kind of a good get if they
No,
do make their way
that would
around.
be very unique.
Yeah,
Be a great concert. I remember seeing Billy Joel and Elton John together, and that was an amazing concert that they put on together, and kind of bouncing back and forth off each other. So it was pretty amazing, and seeing if Eric Clapton joins them, and putting it all together and singing some of the same songs would be great.
Yeah, no, it definitely would be a good get. You give Mr. Kraft a call and say, "Hey, I want to be in your box at the
Excellent.
stadium
Yeah.
if they play there." Well, speaking of, I have a one last lighthearted question, and as a guy that obviously had a little bit of a say with the Patriots' success, many people are probably not happy about this, but they've experienced a bit of a rebirth with Coach Vrabel, who I don't think you ever played with, but
Yes, I
was on
did.
the Patriots, and then
5 years.
Drake. Oh, yes, right. So, and then Drake May, who's their current quarterback, who has a little bit of Tom Brady in him. Which team should the Patriots be most afraid of in the AFC this year? And do you think they have a shot at making the Super Bowl?
Well, I don't think they're afraid of anybody, but they kind of remind me a lot of our '01 team.
Hmm.
How a lot of these guys were put together, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You got to piece it together, and Braves and his staff putting those pieces together, whether it's free agency, draft, but that's what training camp's for, getting them ready. And you know they don't practice the same as we do, but I think it's one of those things where you want to keep them healthy, but unfortunately there is injuries, and you see a lot of bigger hits and people still getting injured, but it's the next man up attitude. And you see it time and time again. And I think Drake's playing great football right now. He, has a great coach underneath him and Josh McDaniels, and, understanding that, he's developing him, and he's still a young quarterback, but knowing that he has an offensive line in front of him that's blocking this year. So, that's helping him too. So he's not running around like a chicken without his head. So that's great. The defense is hyped up. They're playing great football. I think, seeing Mike out there, Vrabel, sorry, and running around and still, I'm sure wishing that he can play. And he always wanted to be a coach. He was a great leader. And to be able to, come together. Mike came here in '01, my second year. And Bill saw something in him. He was only a special teams guy in Pittsburgh, and put him in the lineup. And Mike was a team leader right away, and he just show people how it's done, and that's how I was too. And you know, just a great guy, and he's teaching, he's showing, he's doing a lot of things out there. I think he even got punched in the face in training camp when he was trying to break up a fight.
He did.
Yeah, took a good hit there, but he probably deserved it, knowing him. But I'm just kidding though. But guys are playing hard for him. I mean, he's definitely a player's coach. He's been there, he's done that. So I think this team has a chance definitely to you know be in the playoffs, continue in the playoffs. When you get to the playoffs, it's one and done. So that's when they're playing hard now, but then they got to play even harder when it comes to playoff time.
Yeah, no, well, thank you. And I, for whatever reason, had in my mind that Vrabel, I knew he was in the league back in the early 2000s, but I was thinking he had joined the team like in the, 05-ish era. But you're right. He was there for all
No,
the,
he came in '01.
yeah,
Yeah, because we came in together. He was at a '97 draft, and came in the same year, and he got here in 2001. And amazing that he didn't play linebacker at Pittsburgh, and they didn't see it in him, and play similar defenses. And Bill chose to bring him here, not only play defense, but he was a
a little bit
tight
of
end.
offense
I
too,
think,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
what he catch, like friggin' 18 touchdowns, I think, or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah. I think
that.
it was
He
like 10
just,
or 12, but it was a lot
yeah,
for a linebacker that was,
yeah, he
used kind of
stepped
on
in there.
gimmick plays. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
he
have to
goes,
ask one more follow-on question because you mentioned it. You're an offensive lineman. That you played left guard and then right guard. But Will Campbell, who's playing left tackle for them right now,
hmm,
he seems to embody a lot of like what you were, Joe. I remember you mentioned the lunch pail and that whole
yes.
line back then. And I think this led to who you are in life and what you do for the foundation. So we'll connect football to that. But impressions of Will Campbell, the Patriots rookie left tackle,
Yeah, I mean, when they chose him, and I heard all the ad lib on his reach,
arms being
or
too short. Yeah.
arms being too short. That's just some scout BS. Come on, let's be real. It's in here,
Yep.
right in the heart, and it's in here. You
Hmm.
know what you got to do, and you got the heart to do it. And he's been doing it since week one. So I think he's playing great, along with him and the rest of the team. But him especially coming in as a rookie, he's not always easy. I mean, this is week what 12 coming up,
Yep.
something like that. So just he's got to keep going, keep moving forward because they talk about that rookie wall, and you know he's got to play through that, play through some aches and pains, I'm sure. But he's still young, so he's recuperating. So I think he'll be all right to keep moving forward and play some extra games for us.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears. And with that, we will wrap up. And let me just say a final, thank you for all the amazing work that you and Jen and the team do in helping cancer with cancer care. And, may you continue to have amazing growth, obviously strategic growth. And I encourage all of our listeners to go and check out the Joe Andruzzi Foundation website. I will put the link in the show notes. But Joe, thank you for your time today. And again,
No
thank
problem,
you
man.
just from
Thank you.
society and doing what you do.
Oh, God bless. Thank you.
Thank